In an era where there was no law prohibiting the refusal to sell or rent a property to a person in the United States, based on race, religion, or gender, a passionate, hard-working, shoe-shining boy sets his life goals from a young age to learn how the white men who come for shoe-shining services make money. He writes down everything they say in a pocketbook after they depart and sneaks around their offices, noting down every relevant financial facts they speak. His dad doesn't believe in Bernard's dream, but the young boy is more than determined to make wealth, same as the white men. Many years later, Bernard migrates with his family of 3 to Los Angeles to start his business. He stays at a relative place who finds his dream of becoming a real estate agent who owns and lends out building for a living funny. The next day, after dropping off his in-law at a factory, Bernard takes a walk in town, surveys the houses on lease and rent, making calls and trying to get to know the owners of the buildings. He is amazed by the number of empty houses in white neighborhoods found just few walks from overcrowded black community and decides to exploit this opportunity. Eunice, Bernard's wife, is so supportive and loving woman. With the elevated high housing prices, she takes Bernard to meet a friend Joe who can help loan them some money. Bernard doesn't like Joe at first impressions, and goes directly to meet a wealthy property owner, in an attempt to buy a property. The owner, though he sees Bernard to be a very smart man as he identifies some loops in his business establishment, refuses to do business with him because he claims it's risky doing business with a black man, especially in a white community. As the meeting ends, Bernard makes out the bank manager name from the calendar and goes to meet him directly afterward. The manager's secretary, who discriminate against black people, refuses to make a meeting with the manager and Bernard. Bernard keeps his cool, walks out of the bank, waits for the manager at the entrance of the bank for several hours. When the manager comes out, he stops him and pitches his business ideas to the manager, to which he shows no interest to. Later that night, Bernard receives a call from Patrick Barker, who asked him directly if he used his name at the bank in an attempt to get a loan. He apologizes and gets amazed when Barker tells him he admires his drive to succeed and is willing to do business with him. Bernard is now a proud owner to a property he celebrates with his wife and gets to reconnect with Joe, whom he presumed earlier was a reckless man. The next day, an old white lady, after returning from shopping, finds black men doing renovations in her house. She asks aggressively what they are doing, and the black man replies calmly he's doing repairs in his house. The old lady is infuriated by this and calls the police the next day on Bernard and his men. The police officers are in disbelief to see a black man with authentic documents proving he's the owner of a property in a white community. Bernard subsequently moves next door to the old lady, which infuriates her the more. This makes her to pack out of the house to another spot. In a short time frame, Bernard miraculously brings in more income for him and Barker. Impressed by this, Barker offers Bernard a 50-50% deal for them to be partners, with Bernard handling the logistic and him being the face of the business. With him in front, white people will not know they are doing business or selling their houses to blacks. They two parties get so successful in acquiring lots of property around Los Angeles City. This moment of success and joy is short-lived when Barker dies and his wife takes over the business and asks her lawyer to terminate the previous contract held between her husband and Bernard. She exploits Bernard by paying him off a little amount of money despite his 50% shares in all the properties he acquired with Barker. Bernard goes to the bank manager to try to plead with him to be a witness to his old corporation with deceased Barker in case of any court hearing, but he refuses to see him. Disappointed Bernard while leaving the bank building gets a brilliant idea to buy the bank building and own it. By so doing, the bank will not refuse to give him loan when he requests for it. He goes and meets Joe, a successful estate dealer, and shares his vision with him. He buys the idea and the two recruit Matt to be the face of their business despite his ignorance in the trade. They tutor him on how to behave like a rich person. Bernard teaches him basic maths and logistics. Joe teaches him golf, the taste of different fragrances of wine, and how to dress. Eunice on her part teaches Matt table manners. In barely a month, Bernard and his crew turn Matt into an expert in logistics. They set up a fixed meeting for Matt to meet the bank building owner one-on-one at a country golf club, and the meeting goes successfully. On the day of the meeting, Bernard reassures nervous Matt by doing all the necessary preparations for the meeting. He tackles all possible questions that may be asked, and Matt successfully buys the building. With no restrictions from the bank to loan out money, Bernard and his men amass a good number of houses in the city, reducing the huge gap between white and black segregation and getting recognition from officials, with lots of revenue coming in from these properties. Bernard even buys his wife a very beautiful house in her name. Some years later, Bernard travels with his family on vacation to Texas to visit his father and finds out not much has changed when it comes to black and white segregation in his hometown. After dinner, his dad tells him he is proud of him and fires up the revolutionary spirit in Bernard. After their vacation, Bernard asks his partner Joe to buy the most popular bank in his city, which he reluctantly agrees, stating it's a bad idea. The mainland bank doesn't give out loan to the black community for them to flourish in their businesses and get fair housing opportunities. Bernard wants to change this. They men once more use Matt as a third party and negotiate a deal with the mainland bank committee. Joe dresses as Matt Butler to get close to the meeting and oversee Matt while Bernard watches from outside. Matt pulls through the deal and is made manager of the bank, with the son of the pre-existing owner answering to him. In a space of a month, Matt gives out lots of loans to the black community at an alarming rate that Florence Jr. has never seen with all his years spent in the bank. Florence Jr. worries about this, as he confronts him and eventually follows him discreetly to find out the people who financed Matt to purchase the bank were black men. He later on confronts the men, threatening them with a visit from the National Treasury Examiner in less than a month, who are coming to see into the reckless loan granting affairs the bank has been offering to the black community. The men sit down to discuss their next moves as Matt comes up with an idea for them to buy another bank and transfer the problem loans from the mainland bank into the later bank. Matt suggests to be in charge of the new bank, and Bernard reluctantly settles by allowing Eunice have an eye on him run his one-man show. Matt settles down and starts signing loan contracts with the local lawyers to save Bernard and Joe from further problems. He signs without verifying the documents and also signs a fraudulent document that will later persecute Joe and Bernard. Things get bad for Matt when Florence calls him telling him a group of white people want to withdraw all their savings from the mainland bank because of rumor going out that he is granting loan to black people. To make matters worse, a federal bank examiner visits Matt bank for examination. To help Matt, Bernard dresses as a janitor to his dislike to get close to Matt during his meeting with the examiner. Matt fails the examination, with the agent discovering a major loop in the bank's affairs. Bernard and Joe can believe the reckless signing Matt did on loans with a lawyer recommended by Florence. It turns out all their predicaments is coming from Florence Jr., who bribed the lawyer Matt used and call on the examiner on him. Joe and Bernard decide to leave Matt's bank as there is nothing they can do to help matters. Without letting his partners know, Matt makes another reckless move to save his bank. Joe and Bernard learn the next day and rush to the mainland bank to confront Matt, with Florence smiling from the side. The federal banking agents arrive the mainland bank to revoke its license after Matt's blunder. While leaving the building, federal agents arrest Bernard and Joe without telling them their crimes. Matt is asked to testify against Bernard and Joe by Senator McLean, telling him to affirm he was manipulated to be a third party in all their business transactions. The senator also threatens Bernard to accept the terms and face lesser judgment. On the day of Bernard's hearing, instead of abiding with McLean threats and accepting his fate by the senator, Bernard surprises the whole courtroom as he accused the system of not allowing black citizens to have equal rights and privileges as the whites to loans, property ownership and equality in so many life openings. Him and Joe are given 3 years jail time each, with all their properties seized. Florence buys back the mainland bank for a small fraction of the original money, and Matt is set free of all allegations. On the day of Bernard's release, Joe and Eunice picks him up as the two men share a smile despite having spent time in jail losing everything they worked for. It turns out Matt was a good friend to Bernard, as he called him the night to his hearing and told him about McLean threats. Joe and Bernard, with this in mind, managed to secure 2 houses in the Bahamas which the government knew nothing of. This movie teaches us to act rationally in all our actions, thoughts and deeds despite our trouble in life, as Bernard portrayed this all through the storyline. Share your thought on this recap, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more content as such.